Hey guys, welcome to my sketchbook tour. My name is Stephanie Fitzgerald. So for this first apple I started with an HB pencil. It's the the hardest of the pencils that I have, so it's the lightest. And I just kind of sketched out the general shape. For my reference photos, I always put them on the monochromatic filter because then I don't have to worry about like whether the red is darker than the green or you know, I just have a hard time determining the darkness of color. So I always use the monochromatic filter, and that really helps me to see how dark certain values are and how light certain values are. And since I'm using a gray black pencil, it doesn't make sense for me to have like color in my face. I can just see the gray. Anyway, so I used a 14B for all of these really, really dark, blackest black areas. I think I used a 6B for like the general shading, and maybe a 10B for up here. I'm not sure. I know 14 came in pretty strongly. My 14 is like so tiny. I already need a new one. This is my pears, the second one I did. There's again with the 14B in here. There's a nice highlight here. We've got some mid-tone in here and the reflective lighting in here. And this darkest black with the shading. This is my favorite piece that I've done so far, actually, of all 12 pieces. It came out so well, and the thing that I think really makes it pop isn't just the shading, but it's all of these little, it's so blurry, all of these little teeny tiny dots. And I tried to make them look as natural as possible with these big ones and these little ones, and I spent hours on it, and I love it. Okay, so the banana is next. This blackest black really makes such a stark contrast. And then I have, the great thing about the banana is because it's kind of like in this middle state of decay. So it's got these like brown spots that are kind of like engraved into the banana. So I added, like, I don't know if you can tell, there's a little bit of a white highlight to make those spots pop. And that's kind of what makes them look very textured. There's a little bit of a lighter tone here. But in this photo, the banana was bright, because it was up against like the background that it was actually sitting on was like this dark table, and this black was very, very stark, and the actual banana was very, very light. So I tried to add a little bit of contrast, but I didn't want to go too dark because I felt like it betrayed the original photo. Here's some nice dark cherries. Most of these it's very, very dark. I used I used 14B for all of this almost completely because it was the photo was so dark. I ended up having to lighten them up because when I originally went in with the dark, I couldn't get as much of the contrast. So I had to like kind of take my big fat heavy duty eraser and just start from scratch. There was still like a little bit of the imprint left, and then I just redid it with like not quite as dark as I originally had it. Gosh, I'm already at 3 minutes. Okay. Persimmon, I love the persimmon. Again, I started with the HB pencil to start with the sketch, and I did a lot of contrast in the leaves, although I feel like maybe that's unfinished. Then I did the pomegranate, which I love this pomegranate with the dimpled surface and the detail in the top. And this took a long time. It's one of the pieces that I spent a longer time on because of all of the details on the outer end. But I really love this, and I get a lot of compliments on it. The strawberry is also one of my favorite pieces, and I think I need to brighten up some of these highlights, but it came out really well. I did more shadow mapping with this, which is probably why it turned out so well. With this one, Professor Jones had to help me with the shadow mapping, and I had already done pretty much all of it, so I was already finished with the piece really, and he just kind of helped me figure out how I could be better next time and do more shadow mapping, which I did with the strawberry, but I just didn't do here because there wasn't as much of an obvious contrast as I was with the strawberry. Let's go to the next one. All right, happy Halloween, guys. So this is my pumpkin. I put a lot of effort into the stem, which I think turned out fabulously. It's my favorite part of this piece. And I went really, really dark here. You can see that I've actually kind of damaged the paper a little bit. I don't know if you can see, it's a little reflective because I've tried to go so dark in here, because in the image it is the black right there. Here's my tomato next. This is also one of my favorite pieces. I love how the leaves turned out. The contrast and the details came out really well. I like the leaves in this picture better than I like the leaves in the persimmon, and I really like the shape of the shadows. They turned out well. Next came the blueberry. The blueberry I like, but I've had a few people say it doesn't quite look like a blueberry, and maybe that's just because it's also enormous. The photo that I used had this really cool, not texture, more like a discoloration. The blueberry itself is smooth, obviously, but it had this really cool, like, black discoloration all around the edging, and that's just how blueberries look. I tried to, you know, incorporate most of that around here, at least in the focal point, and I left some of it out here, but I think it turned out well. I'm really happy with it, even if it doesn't look like bam in your face it's a blueberry. This is cranberries, and I think it's an AI picture because I was thinking about it after I already picked it out and started drawing this. The pieces that look like they should be attached to the leaves are actually facing forward, which is kind of funny. So you would think they'd be flipped around. I don't know if it's an AI picture or if it was just like staged. It had the shadow and everything, so it looks like it's photography. Maybe they just staged the leaves behind it. Who knows? I really like the picture, and I really love the way that the shadows came out. Here I heavily shadow mapped. So you can see that I left these very defined spaces open in the leaves. I used the HB pencil to kind of indent my picture, and then I went through and erased it and rendered over it to get this cool highlight. Like especially here, like this line is so thin. I could never have gotten it that thin with the Tombow eraser, and I love that Tombow eraser. Like I said, I've already gone through in a whole stick of the eraser. Like I already had to replace the eraser stick, but it doesn't get these fine thin lines. I will say the Tombow eraser, I have been using it for some things like these. I used it here to get, see, like this is about as thin as I could get it. But I got it this thin by doing what Professor Aaron said and cutting it at an angle, so it's got like this great chisel point. All right, so I'm sorry my video was a little long, guys. That's my sketchbook tour. Thanks for watching.